This episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast is brought to you in part by Xero. Xero is a powerful cloud accounting software that improves efficiencies across your practice. With all client data stored on a single unified ledger, you and your clients can easily access and collaborate on the same set of books. Xero's advisor tools and automation solutions reduce time-consuming manual tasks and put data entry on autopilot. Work faster and more efficiently than ever before with Xero. Visit xero.com/accounting insiders to learn more. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast. My name is Gary DeHart. I am the host of the Accounting Insiders podcast and the publisher of Insightful Accountant. My guest today is Janel Sykora. Janel is the co-founder of Cajabra Marketing for Accountants, and you may have seen her on our marketing talks webinars that she does for us every other month, or as part of our premium content. She also produces, I guess, a quarterly. It's quarterly, right?
Every other month.
Or okay, so every other month, hour-long CPE eligible webinars for our premium content. So Janel, thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you, Gary. Always fun.
So we are going to be talking about roughly kind of what are the top 3 to 5. I think we're going to narrow it down to 3 challenges, mistakes, solutions that you see from a marketing perspective for accounting and bookkeeping firms.
Yeah.
So that's where we're headed. It's Friday, by the way. It is Friday, February the 28th. I always like to put the date in there so that if we say something that's timely, if somebody's listening to this 2 months from now, they don't go, hey, it's not valid anymore. Well, that's because we recorded this on the 28th of February. So, which means tomorrow is the 1st of March, which is
Yes,
unbelievable.
I
So,
know.
all right. So, wow us. What are the top 3 challenges? Let's do it. We'll do challenges, then we'll
Sure.
look at mistakes and then solutions that you see that you come across because you deal exclusively with accounting and bookkeeping firms.
Yes.
So when you meet with companies or firms, what are those the top 3 kind of recurring challenges that you see?
Yeah. One of them is messaging, and we can talk about that. Another one is missing opportunities that are literally floating right in front of them on a regular basis because they don't have the right processes set up and in place for marketing and sales. And then I would say a third one is managing their leads and their opportunities and following up on those and driving them through to close.
Mm, okay. So, all right. So those are the big challenges.
Yeah.
So what mistakes drive to those kind of challenge or and maybe
Yeah.
that's not the right way to frame it, but kind of what ends up happening, we'll break them down like from a messaging standpoint. What are the mistakes that you see
Mhm.
recurring in accounting?
It's a good question. I think a lot of accountants and bookkeepers struggle with messaging because they're not wired for that, right? It's their DNA is numbers, their DNA is problem solving. And I think words and messaging are hard. What compounds that and makes it even harder is the fact that there are a lot of bookkeepers and accountants out there. There's what, 52,000 plus CPA firms and 88,000 plus accounting and payroll services firms. So you've got a lot of them out there, and they all know that they need a website or web presence, and they tend to, say a lot of the same things. So it becomes even more challenging for them to differentiate
Mhm.
themselves when they're offering very similar services. So how do you differentiate yourself and how do you put your brand, a message to your brand that tells a story? And a lot of times, it's funny because I'll see websites as an example where the words are super clever, but they don't make sense. So
Mm.
it's cute and it's clever, but it doesn't make sense. So people won't pay attention. Other times I'll see a website where if I close my eyes and, cover up the logo in the corner, it could be anybody. And I think that's a mistake too, because you don't want to be so vague that you don't look like you have a brand or a brand personality at all. And messaging is just really important, but I also think it is overwhelming to a degree because um, someone I spoke with yesterday, as a matter of fact, said, I've got someone who did this beautiful design for my website, but I don't know what to say. Like, can you
Mm,
help me with that? And I think that that's a pretty pervasive problem, is not really knowing what to say or how to message the value of what they do correctly.
right. I got that. And so let's go ahead and look at solution for that. Um,
Yeah.
what do you see as a common, maybe not a common solution, but what's your go-to solution for messaging and a lack of differentiation?
Yeah, so what I always recommend for every firm, whether you're one person or whether you're 1,000 people, is you need a messaging playbook. When you have a messaging playbook, it becomes so much easier because you don't have to stop and start and think, oh my gosh, what am I going to say, or how do I message this? And a messaging playbook is something that has not only sample marketing content in there, but it's got your basic messaging in there, your value propositions, but it's also got a lot of specific information about your ideal client. So I always tell people the first place you have to start is who's your ideal client. Everybody shouldn't be the answer. You've got to narrow that down or niche down as much as you can. And then you really got to understand what's inside that client's heads. I always tell everyone that I'm working with is anything you create that's written, whether it's a blog post, whether it's your Google business profile, your website, whatever it is, a presentation, don't speak in features and don't speak in these are the services I provide. Always speak in what's in it for me. Think about a business owner considering your bookkeeping firm. They don't necessarily care how many bank reconciliations you'll do per month for this price. What they really are looking for is what does that mean to me? How does that
Yeah.
help me move the needle in my business? So it's very important to really dig into your ideal client's wants and what does success look like? What are their biggest fears? And then you message everything that you do around that.
Yeah. That's a good point because yeah, and like for me, I always like to put it from a small business owner's perspective. I don't care how long it takes you to do it as as my accountant or bookkeeper. It doesn't matter to me. I don't
Right.
care. And when I say I don't care, not in a uh, you know, cold
Yeah, I know what you mean.
disassociated perspective, but it doesn't matter to me if it takes you 2 minutes or takes you 2 hours. I just want to know that it's done right, done in a timely manner, and that it keeps me in compliance with whatever I need to be in compliance with.
Absolutely.
So that's a really good point on selling what their outcome is, right? What
Mhm.
the expected outcome is of the customer. Hey, I'm going to make it to where you don't ever even have to look at your books except once a month when you and I review them. Okay, great. That's what I want, right?
That's exactly right. Because
Right.
then what it does is it elevates you to where now you're an investment. You're not so much that necessary evil expense to the bottom line that now I'm just going
Right.
to go out there and price shop. If I see value in it, I'm not going to mind paying for it. If you're going
Right.
to make my life easier as a business owner because being a business owner is hard, then heck yeah, there's value in that.
Yeah. If you let me go, make my donuts instead of having to, balance my checkbook, then that's a win, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And all right, so let's roll on to missed opportunities. And you said that's really a lot of times tied to process,
Yes. So a lot of times there are so many missed opportunities in front of us. So, as an example, I was speaking with another firm owner this week that said, "Yeah, we're we have we're a good sized firm. We have a lot of clients. We've been in business for 20 some years. We have 16 Google reviews. And we've lost some clients and for whatever reason, normal attrition. And as we dug into our conversation, he was like, "Yeah, we don't have a process for getting Google reviews. We really aren't in front of our clients, our existing clients often at all, unless they need some. They'll call us if they do. We're not communicating. And so, what I see with a lot of firms is so many missed opportunities because the other things that I see are sometimes people will have something on their website, as an example, where they're going to capture an email address, um, but they don't do anything with those email addresses. Or
right?
another thing that I see all the time, especially as more and more firms have gone virtual, is there's nobody answering the phone. And that's okay. as long as people do get frustrated with those really long phone trees. Um, and so the thing is, if you're a prospect, most of the time prospects are not going to leave a message. But if you're a client, you might. So you're missing
Right.
opportunities when you're not, when you don't have a way to either A, answer the phone or capture that caller information and shoot them a quick text and let them know, automated, of course, let them know, hey, got your call. Thanks for calling. What can I help you with today? I'll be right back with you or whatever you want to say. But those types of opportunities, and a lot of times I see so many holes and missed opportunities on websites because websites should convert business, but they have to have the right calls to action. They have to have the right opportunities to capture
Mhm.
email addresses or SMS phone numbers. Um, and then, another opportunity that gets missed a lot is uh, I think accountants and bookkeepers are adopting more SMS marketing, but they need to move a little faster on that because if you think about all the junk email you get in a day, so email marketing is still extremely popular. And has a high ROI. But think about all the spam you get. I think about how many times I get into my email a day and I just hit delete, 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 delete without
Oh
even
yeah.
looking at it because it's annoying. SMS is different. 95% of text messages are read within the first 5 minutes. So you're always going to get that person to at least read. And so what I find is there are so many little holes in the bucket, so to say, with most firms that if we really just focus on how can we capture more of the people that hit your website and turn them into leads, and how can we make sure that we're not missing any opportunities that are calling, there's, right there is a pretty strong lead generation strategies just from capturing ones that are right out in front of you. And
Right.
it's just putting the processes in place and being intentional about, okay, identifying, well, where are all those lead opportunities? Okay, what do we need to do to put a process in place and then automate it?
Yep. And so, in that solution, I'm going to see if I can answer the solution there is you have to either take time and ownership of that process and
Mhm.
understand where those opportunities are, or you have to pay somebody like,
Mhm.
Cajabra or others to come in and assist you with building out these processes. Because again,
Yeah.
you know, my sweet spot is not building out processes, and I
Mhm.
I know that. I don't enjoy doing that at all. And so, we have somebody who that's what he's working on is to build out process. And so, accounting firms, same way, like you said before, uh, not necessarily the first ones to jump into a sales call, or right, or not necessarily geared for with a marketing mindset. So, outsourcing that is probably one of the best investments that a firm could make
Mhm.
because that would pay for itself because of all the missed opportunities that you were just
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about. So,
Yeah.
excuse
And
me.
one
Sorry.
one of the things that I find too with firms is they're generally very, very good at processes in general because they have to be in order to juggle the amount of work and the sheer volume that they juggle. But that's more reactive. Those are reactive processes. The processes that I'm talking about are more your marketing and your sales processes to pull those leads in the door, to keep the clients that you have, that you're staying in front of them with value,
Mhm.
and to turn them into people who will leave a Google review for you or give you a testimonial or a case study of some sort.
Yep.
That's important too.
So since you mentioned Google reviews right there, before we go on to number three, um, talk just briefly just about the Google business listings. When you first started doing webinars with us, that was the first webinar that you did was
Mhm.
around the Google business listing and the importance of it. So give that
Mhm.
just kind of a 1 minute,
Yeah.
shout out.
Yeah, sure. So it's basically probably the best free tool that people don't even realize they have. And so I tell people the starting point is you've got to claim your Google business profile. You have to. It can be a pain going through that verification process, but you just gotta just kind of do it, and the rewards are worth it. So it is completely free, and it's very simple to optimize. So once you claim the profile, you optimize the profile, you fill everything out, you add images, you add posts, everything, and you make sure that your profile strength looks good. There's a little green bar on the top. And so a lot of times people will do that once they realize, oh, shoot, I'm missing a huge opportunity. It's a huge signal to Google that you are a viable, active business if you have a Google business profile and a website, and the Google business profile will drive traffic to your website. So it's a non-negotiable. You really have to have a Google business profile. Now, where it gets tricky though, so a lot of times people will do that. They'll create the profile and optimize it, looks great, and then they forget about it. The number one thing that you can do with that profile to help give you some free SEO juice is get Google reviews. And everyone realizes that, but putting the process in place to automate getting those reviews is the hard thing. And I think with a lot of accountants and bookkeepers, the reason they don't is because they're like, ooh, well, I'm afraid I'm going to get a negative review. And so I'm going to cherry pick who I'm going to ask for reviews because if I get a negative review, that's going to be a problem. But you know what? It's actually not a problem. What getting a negative review is not always a bad thing. So anytime you get a review, it's going to tell Google that you're an active business. If you get a negative review, first of all, there are going to be those types of customers, and everyone's going to have one, right? It's all about how you handle it. And so if you get a negative review, no big deal. You just go out there and you respond very professionally with a cool head, very appropriately. And, let them know I'm so sorry. This isn't what we expected your experience to be like. And the people that are going to look at those Google reviews, which is like 90% of consumers look at Google reviews before they actually do business with someone, they're going to look for those negative reviews. And what they're going to look for is how you handled it. Not so much what the problem was, but how did you handle it? So, putting some sort of an automation in place that triggers sending out a review request with a super simple link that anyone can click on their phone or in their email and quickly go out there and leave a review is something you can do for yourself that is costs you nothing and it's going to get you some pretty good SEO juice.
Right. Great. All right. Number three was managing leads and opportunities. So we talked about that a little bit already, right? And that's
Mhm.
pipeline and its process. Um,
Mhm.
but it's also even, you know, having your playbook, right? That
Yeah.
says, here's what we do when, Gary reaches out to us from our website or a phone call or what have you. So what's the what's our middle thing we
Yeah.
talked about here? Mistakes. Kind of what are the mistakes that you see in managing leads and opportunity?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you exactly what I see is here's a great example. So I spoke with someone, a managing partner, like a week or so ago, and he said, "Yeah, we're using this. We do a pretty good job capturing leads. We're using whatever email type software, lead capture software he's using." And he said, "But man, we've got like hundreds of these in here. We never do anything with them. So I'm not
Right.
quite sure what we're supposed to do with them." And I think that's the issue. They're not sure what they're supposed to do with them. Am I supposed to email them? Am I supposed to call them? And the way that it really should work, I think that's the mistake is I don't know what to do with these. Um, and I don't have the time to take the trouble to figure it out. So, and I get that. A really good thing to do would be to set up an automation that handles those leads for you automatically so that when they come into your system, however they come into your process, through whatever door you've got set up that they can enter through, that there's an automation that handles those leads, sets them up as opportunities in your pipeline, and automatically moves them through the pipeline. And that's actually pretty easy to do. And then it takes the overwhelm out, and you're not letting opportunities fall through the cracks because there are enough people out there who are following up with leads and putting good automations in place and showing up in people's inboxes or on their texts or wherever with high value information that isn't spammy that this it's super important coming from a career in sales. I can't imagine not following up on leads because I never would have hit my quota if that were the
Right.
case.
Yep.
So, and there's processes to do it. It doesn't have to be oh, these are going to sit on my desk and I don't have time to call them or anything. No, there's processes to pull them in, manage them, and get them all the way through to onboarding without you really having to do a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. You met my son, Evan. You met
Yeah.
him at Scale New Heights. And so he's in college and he and his roommate are just looking for pressure washing jobs around, close to campus. And he had this connection, like my wife's father's wife's friend. And so he went to dinner with this couple and told them what he was doing, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we've got, need to do our regular house, need to do our lake house, need to do our, other house." And he's like, "Great." So he's following up, and he sent a text a couple of days ago to me. "Oh, I've reached out to him like 5 times, and he's, is not returning my call." I'm like, "Well, sales 101, you got to learn the balance, right, of being persistent, staying
Yeah,
top of mind, but not getting to the point to where they don't ever want to hear from you again, right?"
that's right.
And
Such a good
and
point. Yeah.
and so I'm
Learn.
like,
That's so true.
it's a fantastic lesson. So,
Yeah.
um, and he's in
Yeah.
entrepreneurship in school, so it's a
Good for him.
good time to learn it, right?
I wish he lived closer. I could use a power washer.
Right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe he'll take a trip to Florida.
There you
Well,
go.
he's actually coming to Orlando in 2 weeks, but
Huh?
that'll spring break. So
Oh, yeah.
I
He's not gonna be
don't think
home
he'll
for
have
the
his,
power
he
washer.
probably won't have the pressure washer with him.
No.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So the solution is a solution here also. I mean, is it to have the right technology? Is it to have somebody, identified on staff who this is their responsibility, or is it to outsource? What do you see as the most common solutions?
Well, it's a little bit of all three of those. So it is, so first of all, this is something that would be overwhelming to most accountants or accounting firm owners or bookkeepers. So this is something where it will take time to set it up. It just does. Once you
Hmm.
set it up, it runs beautifully and you can pull leads in and you can nurture those leads and send proposals out and close them and have tasks show up on people's calendars. You can do all sorts of amazing things. However, most accountants aren't going to want to invest the time and to learn how to do that and then actually execute it, do it.
Yeah.
Even though once it's in place, it runs like a well-oiled machine. So my recommendation with there is to work with someone, like outsource it, work with someone who can get really, roll up their sleeves with you and go, okay, let's talk about where your leads are coming from. Okay, well, how can we get you more leads? Let's talk about lead generation. Now let's talk about what you're going to do with these things with these leads when they get into your process and how we're going to what are the different tactics and strategies that we're going to put in place to turn those into business for you so that you're never just letting anything slip through the cracks. And
Right.
oftentimes too, I hear, well, we don't need a lot of leads because we have more business than we know what to do with. However, I like to push back on that too, because I always ask, well, okay, so everyone in your book of business is the perfect client. You don't have anyone who's chewing up your time or who has like massively creeped beyond your scope or complains when you raise your rates or anything like that. And the answer is always, oh yeah, there's always that small subset of clients that you could easily cull if you wanted to make room for the more ideal clients, whatever that might look like. So that's why it's really important to have that lead pipeline, because if you don't, clients do leave just through normal attrition,
Yeah.
and you've got to have the good ones there to be able to replenish. And that's just if you want to stay status quo. If you want to grow, you do need to put some strategies in place. But again, they can all be automated and to where there's no work on the accountant's end.
Yeah. And I was going to say, and you touched on it, if, what if your number one client leaves and you don't have, you know, a backfill and pipeline?
Yep,
That's a problem.
it's a
Still
huge
have
problem.
payroll. Yeah, still have payroll or
Yep.
tuition or, something that's going to
Yeah,
be expecting those funds to come in, right?
yeah,
So, all
yep.
right. So that's a great conversation. So let's talk about upcoming webinar, March
Mhm,
the 13th, 2 o'clock Eastern. It is a
mhm.
CPE eligible webinar titled How to Amplify Growth and Get New Clients for Bookkeeping Firms. I know what we've just talked about is probably going to be covered in that. What else is that going to be covering? What else you covering?
Yeah, I'm going to take them through like a 7-step blueprint, a process for amplifying growth and getting new clients. I think this is going to be really helpful for those bookkeepers who are like your one or two man firms,
Hmm.
or because what I find is there are a lot of small to mid-size accounting or bookkeeping firms that, they have the resources to hire a marketing consultant or agency or the technology. But a lot of times you get these really small firms that they're newer. They aren't quite sure where to start. They really do want to grow. And I'm going to take them through a blueprint to do that. And then we've created an offer just for, we're going to limit it to 25 bookkeeping firms, bookkeepers. And that offer is going to be very exclusive, just offered on that webinar. And it is going to be like very high value, very juicy, and it's kind of a way for us to really work with 25 bookkeepers and help them move the needle and get their business to the next level and be able to do it, with a total of 25 at the same time. So we're
Okay.
really excited about that. This is the same process that we put in place when we work individually with firms. Um, and it tends to be sort of an expensive process, but since we are offering it to a group, we have been able to create an offer that is extremely affordable and very meaty, high value.
Great. And that is March the 13th, 2 o'clock,
Yep.
how to amplify growth and get new clients for bookkeeping firms. We'll have the registration link in the show notes as well. You can go to insightfulaccountant.com and also find the promotion and the registration for that webinar there as well. And on our social media, it's everywhere. So any last parting words, parting thoughts?
No, this was a really fun topic to talk about. I could probably talk for 3 hours about all of the different parts of the process that I
Right.
love to implement. But I'm excited about the webinar, and I'm always excited to help anyone who needs it. If anyone is stuck and has, marketing strategy questions or marketing technology questions, they can always find me on LinkedIn, Janel Sykora, or anytime can go to cajabra.com and hit me up by clicking the button on the top right and scheduling a brief conversation. So I want to help. I know that marketing is about as much in accountants' DNA as QuickBooks is in mine.
Right.
So, and I know I appreciate getting help from people when I need it. So I'm there to offer answers and solutions whenever I can.
Awesome. Well, we will see you on the 13th of March, and if not sooner. And hope you have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks,
All
Gary.
right. Thanks, Janelle. Bye bye.